Hi, and welcome to another episode of Ask Maggie. This one is, as promised, about ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and the full spectrum of the HDHDs. Okay, that's a good way of putting it. And your kids are getting ready for school, so I figured maybe this would be a good time to talk about this so we can help get your kids ready for school and get you ready to get them ready for school. And as I always say, this is not a substitution for real therapy, although I am a therapist, but this is for entertainment purposes and education purposes to give you some ideas so that you can help your kids. So if you're watching this already, you probably already have had your child diagnosed by a professional, and you may or may not be getting them on some type of medication for their ADHD. This will help you either way. But let me begin by saying that when we look at ADHD symptoms, we're looking at the symptoms and behavior from a viewpoint of something is wrong with this child, or this child is a problem to the rest of society. If you look at the diagnoses, that's how it's phrased. Now, one of my purposes here is that I want to change some of the misconceptions about ADHD, because your attitude about ADHD can make a big difference on how your child sees him or herself, and that's going to reflect on how they do in school and generally in life beyond school. So let's take a look at a list of people who have been diagnosed with ADHD or have the symptoms of, so that prior in history, when they didn't have this diagnosis, these people might have been diagnosed. Okay, how about Dustin Hoffman, Jack Nicholson, Bruce Jenner, Magic Johnson, John F. Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, Evel Knievel, okay, I can totally see that one. John Lennon, Lewis and Clark, yeah, a lot of ADHD people are very inquisitive and explorers. Abe Lincoln, Elvis Presley, Dan Rather, Buddy Rich, you know the drummer Buddy Rich. Joan Rivers, lots of comedians, yeah. Pete Rose, okay, he's not a real good example. I kind of got himself in some trouble, but nonetheless, he was a good baseball player, right? Eleanor Roosevelt, Charles Schultz, you know, the guy who did the Peanuts comic strip. Pablo Picasso, Charles Schwab, even Albert Einstein. So, and you know who else? Richard Branson, the millionaire. The guy is very inventive. He is a really good example of somebody who has taken their symptoms of ADHD and routed it into something positive. And that's what I would like to see a lot of parents in schools do. So, let's take a look at even the name attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And whether or not your child has hyperactivity and maybe they're just inattentive, this is still a negative way of phrasing what is going on with your child. How about variably interested, energetic superpowers? That's a different way of looking at it, isn't it? But in order to get Ritalin and to get a diagnosis so you can get treatment, they have to call it something really negative and bad. So, you know, that kind of makes your child feel bad about themselves too. Now, part of the problem is that the schools are set up to educate and process large numbers of kids. That's their job. It's cost effective. Nobody wants their taxes to go up. So they try to stick as many kids in there as they can, and the teachers have a struggle of handling all the kids with all their different behaviors, and that can be very difficult for the teachers. And they have to have a set routine in order to do this. And as we all know, routines can be very boring. In order to process all these kids, it has to be structured, and not everybody handles structure well. Let's look at some of the symptoms of ADHD and ADD, and then turn it around to a 180-degree viewpoint. And let's look at a strength-based perspective. First of all, one symptom, blurting out answers before the question is even completed, okay? Now, some people would say that's a bad thing. How about this is a sign that the child is competitive and is trying to impress people with how smart they are? Now, maybe it'd be better if they finish the question. What if it's a totally wrong question they answered? Has trouble waiting his turn. A lot of kids do have that trouble. Well, you know what? No one really likes to wait. Even adults don't like to wait. And why is the world so inefficient that we have to wait? Oh, well, that's right. The schools are processing kids. And so it's kind of inefficient, and sometimes people have to wait. You only have so many bathrooms. You only have one lunch line. It would not be cost effective to have 2 or 3 lunch lines. So teach your kid how to be efficient and to wait for opportunities for shorter lines. Teach them to think and how to make things easier for themselves. How about kids who interrupt? There's another symptom. Yes, other people do have the right to give their complete thought. Maybe not so much on the morning show, WNIR, but nonetheless, let's be honest. It's hard to tell when some people are done talking, and honestly, some people never shut up. Oh, they never seem to stop. And if your child interrupts in a conversation, think of it as showing enthusiasm for the subject instead of apathy. So what they do need to have is their social skills tweaked so that they can learn to be polite and say, "Excuse me, but I would like to say something." Why smother their enthusiasm? You don't want them to tune out, because eventually if kids are told, don't say anything, this is an adult conversation or whatever, a lot of times they're just going to tune out, go out into their own outer space world, la la land. You don't want that. It's not a good thing. It becomes like a crutch for them. Anytime that they're not interested in something, they're just going to go off into la la land. Keep your kids involved and active in what is going on. How about hyperactivity? Well, there's hyperactivity, or would you rather have a lethargic child? Energy can be a good thing if it's routed in the right direction. How about distractible? Another symptom. If you take a group of kids out in nature and you've got a couple of ADHD kids in there and tell them to spot a chipmunk, they're the first ones who are going to spot a chipmunk or anything. This is basically, they possess a hunter's frame of mind versus the farmer. The farmer is more methodical. They can do things in process and think ahead. Whereas the world needs hunters too. Hunters are quick. They spot things. They go after things quickly. The world needs both hunters and farmers. All right, and think about it like this, all right? Now that you're an adult, you got to choose your career or occupation. And it could be something very physical or outdoorsy or have a variety of activities. Well, it isn't easy to be a kid forced to sit in a classroom in a small hard desk every day and be told what you are supposed to think about. A lot of us have forgotten what it's like to be in grade school. Think about that. Now that you have your own career, you're doing other things. You got to choose. So then think about another thing. What is life really about? Is it all about hard work and pleasing somebody else who's going to make money off of your hard work? No, it's about appreciation. So if you see a butterfly outside the window and you see a bird, take a minute, appreciate nature, appreciate different thoughts, different senses, all the different senses. It's okay to do that as long as you can take yourself back to whatever you're doing and finish what you started. Is your child talkative? A lot of those kids can turn out to be really good presenters or really good salespeople. Some kids really are not real talkative, and well, there's careers for those people too. How about highly energetic? Think of this as a potential. Your child could be highly productive, proactive, or even philanthropic if that energy is routed in the right direction. If you keep them busy doing things that are productive, that's half the battle. Bored kids, that's trouble. How about inattention? Well, how about this? Many inventive and artistic people had a lot of great ideas in their heads when they were supposed to be doing something else. And these thoughts can lead to other great thoughts. So who's to say that these thoughts aren't going to someday end up as $1-million inventions or books or movies, or who knows what they're inventing in their head? Maybe it shouldn't be discouraged. Have them share it with you, write it down, and then go back to whatever they were doing so they can finish their project. How about sitting still? A lot of ADHD kids have trouble sitting still. Some people used to complain in my first couple of video casts that I was rocking on a rocking chair. There's nothing wrong with that, really. I mean, for the audience-wise, okay, I'm sorry. I am sitting in a normal chair. But while your kid's doing their homework and they have excess energy, let him sit in a rocking chair or one of those activity balls that you can sit on, you do crunches on. Let them bounce a little bit. If it helps, why not? And they're at home, so it's not a big problem. So, as an adult, you can get up and move around at your job. Even if you're sitting in a graduation and it's like, oh my gosh, this is so long, you can get up as an adult. Kids can't get up without getting in trouble, and that's a problem. So help them understand just how long it is that they're going to have to sit still for and why they have to sit still. So I think you see where I'm going with all of this, and unfortunately, sometimes the symptoms do interfere with what your child wants and what their goals are. And as with any diagnosis, any mental health diagnosis, when it interferes with your daily living and functioning, we want to see how we can help. We want our kids to success at their goals and generally in life. So help your child define what they want the school year to look like. You do this before school starts, if possible, or very early. Help them define success. Be specific and then put it down in their own words. Okay, so you want to do it in a couple of different realms: academically, socially, at home, extracurricularly, if that's a word. Okay, it is now, okay? So those 4 areas, and what steps do they need to take to get to what they think success is? And how can you help them reach the goal? Ask them, how can I be helpful to you? Help them visualize a healthy self-concept. If they can visualize themselves interacting well socially with other kids and making friends, that's a definite plus. Can they visualize and picture themselves turning things in on time, on a consistent basis? Can they picture themselves speaking up in, oh, there's a kitty in the background. Did you see? That's Winston. He's distracting me right now. He's so cute. Anyway, picture themselves speaking when it's their turn only instead of speaking out of turn. Show your own interest and enthusiasm in schoolwork. And if you can't, then fake it, okay? Ask in detail about what good things happened at school that day. Offer rewards for positive behavior, like verbal praise, a pat on the back, maybe a tangible reward. It doesn't always have to be food because a lot of kids are getting kind of chunky. But there's a lot of little things that you can do. Maybe even a sticker board. Put stickers up on a board. After you get 10 stickers, you get some money or who knows what. Stick your good work up on the refrigerator. Kids love that. I even did it when I was in college for myself. I felt so good about it. And let them hear you tell others about the good things that they're doing at school. So you call up grandma or you call up the aunt and it's like, oh, they did really good in school today. Because then kids feel good about themselves. Now, one of the big things that you want to keep in mind for the school year is that organization is a huge thing for kids with ADHD. And you can start by simplifying their bedroom. Try and clear away the clutter, keep things neat and organized. Organize the desk or study area. And how do you do that? Well, you put labels on things so everything has a place and they never have a question of where things have to go. Use labels on folders, notebooks, or any item that is just kind of ambiguous or dull or whatever. That way things are easy to identify when they need them. Use Post-it notes for reminders. Use color-coded binders for different classes. Binders, notebooks. So if you have red notebooks and binders for math, they'll always know, pull out the red ones. Blue for reading, green for social studies, whatever. You get the idea. Use the school planner. The schools usually provide them. And don't forget that the schools also have websites. Usually it's called blackboard.com, where you can go and check every day to make sure that your child has your assignment. Now, sometimes we have to count on the fact that the teachers have the responsibility of actually posting things on there. And I have seen with my own kids that sometimes they don't always do that. Okay, have a place for their jacket and their book bag when they get home, and get into the habit of emptying the book bag and the contents of the folders every single day. Now, what I did is I had those paper trays like they have in offices. I would have one for permission slips and things that I was supposed to sign, one for homework to do, homework that is already done, and graded papers or artwork that we can set aside and it's all done. We don't need to worry about that anymore. And then you stick them on the refrigerator. Check their planner every day or the blackboard, as I said, and make a chart on a board so they can visually be reminded of what they need to do. Visual reminders are a big help, because with verbal reminders, usually it's in one ear and out the other. Whereas when it's a visual, they can go back and look at it again and again if they need to. Sometimes short-term memory can be a problem with people with ADHD, and we need to be sympathetic of that. Besides being organized, there's other things you can do, and I cannot say enough for building a healthy relationship with your kid. If your child wants to please you and feels that having your admiration and respect is important to them, they don't want to lose that. So build a relationship, number one. Instead of video games when they get home, encourage physical activity to burn off some of that steam after they've been sitting still all day long. You can use video games as a reward later on after they've gotten the homework done. Discuss setting the alarm a little early every day so they can check their supplies, homework, and gather their thoughts and have a healthy breakfast before school. Try to make waking up a positive thing with maybe some good smells like bacon or whatever it is that they like. Just make waking up a pleasant thing. Oh, I got a text. Distractions. All right, limit their choices. This makes things simple for everybody. For example, what clothing they're going to wear for the day. Give them 2 or 3 choices. Lunch items, 2 or 3 choices. They can get really tied up in all kinds of thoughts about what am I going to eat or what am I going to wear. Limit the choices. Break larger school projects into small steps. Write down the steps, put it on a timeline for them, and help them keep track of their progress on the timeline. And, oh yeah, okay. Help them find their strengths and use their strengths to succeed. So you might not think gym or art is that important, but that's your own thing. Keep in mind that somewhere in the world, at some time, somebody's going to value their skills in art or gym or whatever it is, and they're going to use that. So why not help them build those skills? Actually, you can earn extra points by doing really good artwork on your school projects. So that's a plus. Keep your instructions brief, clear directions, ask in a respectful way to repeat the directions back if you think it's a little complicated. And I emphasize the word respectful because it's a part of building a relationship. Help your child pair up with other non-ADHD kids who are nice, who can help them stay organized and role model consistent behavior, turning stuff in on time and doing a good job. And always encourage time management. Sometimes homework seems like it'll take all day or forever for the kids. Make sure that they know that it's not going to take forever. Help them organize their time, break things up into little spaces, and offer breaks. Discipline. That is a big one, okay? If you've been using yelling, criticism, comparing to other kids, berating, ridiculing, or negative reinforcements, how has that worked out for you so far? Probably badly. So these kids have already had a hard hit on their self-esteem at school by some teachers, peers, administrators, even coaches. So is there any safe or positive place that they can go besides going out back and smoking pot? Okay, we don't want that. Home should be someplace safe where you get help, support, encouragement, reward, love, instruction, and also a safe, stable place where you can go and get some rest. Reward them for looking for details. Now, skipping details is one of those things that ADHD kids have a problem with. Reward them for listening well. Reward them for following directions well. Sometimes it's good to play board games where there's instructions so that they have some practice with following instructions. When you're doing activities that involve several steps, have them observe it and then verbalize what you're doing and what steps you're going through. So this kind of puts it in their head that they should be doing this mentally when they're doing things. Take breaks. If homework assignments are too long, 20, 30 minutes can be plenty of time, and you take a little snack break or go run around the house a little bit, play with the dog, whatever it takes. Self-esteem is a big thing. Kids with ADHD diagnoses know that they're different. And how do you define normal? Okay, you can't. I dare you to go into a grocery store and tell me which kid has ADHD and which one just has parents who don't set limits. You don't know, honestly. But these kids know they're different because they have been taking medications, or they go to a counselor, or they have special classes, or they have something called an IEP at school. And then they get called dumb by their peers. So they've already had it hard enough. And because sometimes their social skills need enhancing, these kids end up as the target of bullies. So you need to be aware of signs of distress due to bullying and then take care of that. When we do have a webcast on bullying. Aim for making your child a great person and not a stressed out A student. That's important. So what you're doing is setting goals for life skills like responsibility, punctuality, reliability, trustworthiness, foresight, motivated, manners, being an energetic self-starter. These are things that employers appreciate later on in life, and they're not going to ask your kid for their report card in 3rd or 4th grade, okay? So I hope these are some ideas that are helpful to you. And I'm going to post some links about ADHD that might be worthwhile. If you don't know if your child has ADHD, I'll post some information on that too. You do need to see a psychiatrist or other medical professional. If you want your child to have medication, counselors can be helpful with other things, but they can't prescribe. That's important to keep in mind. But they can help your child deal with building skills to handle their ADHD and dealing with the stressors that come along with ADHD, and there are, yours and theirs. So thanks for watching. Send me messages on Facebook if you have any ideas, or if you have some problems you want addressed on a webcast. You can do it on Facebook, or you can go to askmaggie@hotmail.com, and I will do my very best. We had minimal distractions. Yeah, Rebecca and I are supposed to go running this afternoon or this evening, so I have to get going, but thank you for watching, and I'm not sure what the next one's going to be on, so give me some ideas. Thanks.